The shuttle doors opened with a quiet hiss, and the human diplomat, Elias Corwin, stepped onto the gleaming surface of the alien palace. The world outside was like nothing he had seen before. The sky was a swirl of colors, shifting constantly as if the atmosphere itself were alive. Strange birds, or perhaps creatures that only resembled birds, soared in patterns that defied gravity. The palace itself seemed to float on a massive platform, suspended above a glittering ocean that reflected the sky in a kaleidoscope of light. Elias could feel his heart race. For years, humanity had waited for this moment, the first invitation to an interstellar cultural exchange, and now he was here. His training had prepared him for etiquette, diplomacy, and alien customs, but nothing could have prepared him for the overwhelming beauty and strangeness of this place. As he walked down the crystal corridors of the palace, Elias noticed the walls shimmered with liquid patterns, shifting like waves frozen in motion. The light was soft but strange, as though it came from inside the walls themselves. Sounds echoed in a way that seemed both near and far at the same time. Music floated through the halls, not music as humans knew it, but vibrations that he could feel in his chest, a melody that was part thought, part feeling. He was guided by a young attendant who moved with grace and precision. Though the alien's form was humanoid, their features were subtly different. Elongated limbs, skin that changed color with each gesture, eyes that seemed to see through time itself. They spoke, but not aloud. Elias felt their words in his mind, gentle impressions of sound and meaning. "This way, honored guest," the attendant conveyed, and Elias nodded, unsure if he was supposed to speak. The main hall of the palace opened before him, and he froze. The room was vast, taller than any human building, with ceilings that arched like the inside of a seashell. Floating platforms rotated slowly in mid-air, holding guests who seemed to glide rather than walk. Light poured in from impossible angles, bouncing off transparent surfaces and turning the space into a living prism. Aliens of every shape and form mingled gracefully. Some had multiple arms, others had flowing appendages like ribbons. Some hovered above the ground entirely. They laughed, spoke, and moved in ways that challenged human perception. Elias felt both out of place and utterly fascinated. He was ushered to a long table at the center of the hall. At the head sat the queen. Even from a distance, Elias felt her presence. She was tall, elegant, her skin a shifting pattern of silvers and blues. Her eyes, if they could be called eyes, held depth and intelligence that seemed to span centuries. Her form was humanoid but more perfect, more balanced than anything human eyes could comfortably accept. Elias's guide gently indicated the seat beside her. Swallowing hard, he approached. Every step felt like walking into history. The queen turned her gaze toward him, and for a moment he felt exposed, as if she could see every thought, every doubt, every hope he had ever had. Then she spoke, not aloud, but in his mind. "Welcome, human." The voice was calm, melodic, precise. Elias felt it rather than heard it. "You are here because we have watched your kind. We are curious." Elias froze. Human language, perfect, flawless, echoed in his mind. But the source was the queen herself. He had prepared for introductions, handshakes, and formalities, but not for telepathic conversation. I am honored, Your Majesty," he stammered, unsure if speaking aloud was necessary. The queen's lips did not move, yet he heard her chuckle softly in his mind. "Speak as you wish. I am not offended by sounds your body produces." He swallowed and tried to calm his nerves. "Thank you. I am Elias Corwin representing humanity. We have waited for this encounter for a long time." Her gaze softened, though only slightly. "Long enough to learn. Long enough to be worthy." You sit beside me because I wish to observe more than your words. I wish to see your mind." Elias's pulse quickened. Observation. Not diplomacy, not ceremony, but observation. He had expected a formal gathering, perhaps a chance to exchange knowledge, but now he realized there was more at play. Every movement, every choice, every thought could be noticed. He looked around the hall, trying to gather his composure. The other guests were engaged in delicate dances of conversation and ritual. Some exchanged glowing symbols that hovered in the air, pulsing with meaning. Others shared glimpses of memory, projecting images that shimmered before each other like living paintings. Elias could only guess at what these gestures meant. A tray of food floated toward him. The delicacies were unlike anything he had ever seen. Crystalline fruits that reflected the hall's light, liquids that shimmered like oil but tasted like concentrated sunlight, shapes that changed texture as he touched them. Hesitant, he picked one up. The flavor exploded in his mouth, a mix of sweetness, warmth, and a strange tang that reminded him of earth rain. The queen observed silently, yet Elias felt her attention in every bite he took. Time seemed to bend. Conversations blurred into dances. Movements became music, and Elias's sense of self wavered between awe and fear. He realized that this gathering was more than a social event. It was a test, a delicate, intricate assessment of how a human might respond to wonder, chaos, and beauty beyond comprehension. The queen leaned slightly closer. He felt her presence envelop him in warmth, not threatening, but insistent. "Tell me, human," she conveyed. "What do you feel when you see all this?" Elias thought for a moment. Many words came to mind: awe, fear, admiration, confusion. But he spoke simply. "I feel small, and yet curious. I want to understand. I want to learn." A ripple of acknowledgement passed through her. Curiosity is rare. Courage is rarer. Patience is rarest of all. She paused, then added, "Tonight you will need all three, and perhaps more." Before he could ask more, the room shifted. Platforms rotated, new guests arrived from unseen corridors, and the atmosphere thickened with expectation. A soft hum resonated through the hall, vibrating in Elias's chest. It was the prelude to something extraordinary. The queen's gaze sharpened. "Do not fear what is unexpected, human. That is the lesson you will carry from this night." Elias nodded, though his throat was dry. He realized that the ball was not merely an event of diplomacy. It was a stage, a challenge, a place where the very essence of humanity might be revealed to the stars. He took a deep breath, adjusting his posture, trying to mask his awe. The other guests continued their elegant dances and exchanges, but Elias focused on the queen beside him. There was something in her presence, subtle, yet undeniable, that suggested the evening would not unfold as he expected. A soft chime echoed through the hall, a signal that a formal part of the festivities was about to begin. Guests turned their attention to the center of the room. Light gathered, coalescing into patterns that danced across the floor, painting the hall with moving stories of alien history, culture, and achievement. Elias watched, fascinated, as each projection seemed to reach out, probing not just the eyes, but the mind. The queen leaned slightly closer, her thought voice brushing against his consciousness. "Observe carefully, human. Learn not only from what is shown, but from what is hidden. Sometimes the truth is in the subtle, the quiet, the overlooked. Watch, and you may understand more than you realize." Elias swallowed, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Humanity's first impression in this alien world was not just a matter of words or gestures. It was about presence, understanding, and reaction. Every glance, every motion, every subtle choice mattered. He looked at the queen again. She was radiant, composed, yet her presence suggested a depth he could not yet measure. And then he felt it, a spark of connection, almost imperceptible, a moment where the vast difference between human and alien seemed to narrow, if only slightly. As the projections danced and the music swelled with vibrating harmonics that made the very air shimmer, Elias realized that this night would change him. He was no longer merely a diplomat or observer. He was a participant in a story that spanned worlds, a story where humanity's true nature might be revealed, not through weapons or technology, but through courage, empathy, and curiosity. The Queen spoke again, softly, almost as a whisper in his mind.
"The night is long, human."
Pay attention. Be ready. What happens here will not be repeated, and what you do may surprise even me. Elias's heart raced. The invitation, the palace, the music, the floating guests, they were only the beginning. Something awaited, something unforeseen, something that would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. He straightened in his seat, feeling the weight of the moment. Humanity's first dance with the stars had begun, and he was at the center, beside the Queen. And in that instant, he knew one thing for certain. Nothing about this night would be ordinary. The ball continued, and Elias found himself caught in a world that defied all human understanding. The alien guests moved with elegance that seemed to flow from thought alone. Some floated above the ground, their limbs extending and bending in impossible ways. Others shimmered as if their bodies were made of liquid light, constantly shifting in hue and shape. Humans would have been overwhelmed, but Elias forced himself to observe, to learn, to adapt. The Queen remained beside him, calm and silent in a way that made her seem untouchable. Yet, every so often, Elias felt her attention brush his mind, like a soft wind, gentle but probing. It was as if she was measuring not just what he did, but how he thought, how he felt. "Do not be afraid of what you do not understand," she said in his mind. "Observation is not judgment, yet it reveals everything. Watch closely, human. Learn the language of the unseen." Elias nodded. He had expected alien etiquette to be strange, but nothing could have prepared him for the subtle, almost invisible rules that governed the room. A movement too slow, a glance too long, a hesitation. Any could carry meaning. He realized he had to not just exist in this space, but to participate without error. A young alien approached him, their form a tall, flowing figure that shimmered like liquid silver. They extended a limb toward him. Not a hand, but a sort of glowing ribbon. Elias hesitated, then mimicked the gesture as best he could. The alien's form pulsed in a brighter hue, and Elias felt a faint warmth in his chest. A connection had been made, subtle but undeniable. The Queen observed, her presence calm yet intense. Small gestures carry meaning across galaxies, human. Do not underestimate them. Elias tried to memorize every movement, every expression. He watched as a group of aliens shared memories, projecting them into the air like holographic paintings, scenes of distant planets, civilizations long gone, and personal experiences unfolded before him. Humans had nothing like this, yet Elias noticed there was something in their eyes, a curiosity, a longing, a recognition that mirrored human emotion. It was then that a new challenge arose. The music shifted, vibrating in ways that resonated deep within Elias's body. The air seemed to thicken, and a soft glow enveloped the room. Platforms began to rotate faster, and the guests' forms became more fluid. It was no longer a simple dance of etiquette. It was a test of perception, patience, and adaptability. The Queen's thought brushed against his mind again. The night is a mirror. Human. What you see reflects what you carry. Adapt, or be lost. Elias felt his pulse quicken. He realized the ball was not merely a celebration, but a subtle trial. Every action, every choice would be watched. The Queen was testing humanity not just as a species, but as an idea, as a force in the galaxy. He moved carefully among the guests, observing their interactions. Some communicated with colors, hues, shifting to express emotions. Others created small shapes of light that floated between them, symbols of meaning beyond words. Elias tried to understand, to decode, but quickly realized that comprehension alone was not enough. He had to participate, to engage, to demonstrate qualities the aliens could not assume humans possessed. A sudden ripple of movement caught his attention. An alien child, or at least a smaller form resembling youth, floated awkwardly near the edge of a platform. It was frightened by the fast rotations and shifting lights. Without thinking, Elias reached out, steadying the form with his hand. The child's body shimmered with gratitude, and Elias felt a warmth unlike any he had known. The Queen's presence intensified for a moment, a subtle acknowledgement of his action. "Empathy," she said in his mind. "It is rare among your kind. Use it well." Elias continued, feeling a new confidence. Observation alone was not enough. Connection mattered. Small acts of understanding, gestures of kindness, and moments of courage could be seen even by beings so vastly different. As the evening progressed, the room changed again. Gravity seemed to shift, platforms floating in ways that made humans dizzy. Light bent around corners, revealing secret alcoves and hidden displays. Elias realized that the palace itself was part of the test, a living entity that observed and responded. Every choice of path, every glance, every movement of his body mattered. The Queen leaned slightly closer, and Elias felt her thought settle gently against his mind. "You will be challenged soon, human." The true measure is not in knowing, but in responding when knowledge fails. Prepare yourself. Before he could ask what she meant, the center of the hall erupted with light. A projection appeared, enormous and complex, depicting a scene of a distant world under threat. Alien beings struggled against forces that Elias could not fully comprehend, storms of energy, creatures of immense power, and landscapes that shifted like living beings. The Queen's voice, calm yet commanding, filled his mind. "See the challenge, human. Understand it, not with your mind, but with your being. What would you do?" Elias felt a wave of fear, but also a surge of determination. He could not intervene directly. These were visions, tests, but he could observe, learn, and respond. As he focused, he began to notice patterns. The aliens' actions were guided by instinct, logic, and emotion, much like humans, yet there was something missing: improvisation, the spark of unpredictability. A thought struck him. He suggested a small change in the projected scene. Not with action, but with imagination. He pictured the alien beings working differently, combining their skills in ways they had not considered. The projection shifted subtly, responding to his mental suggestion. The Queen's presence intensified. "You see beyond the obvious. You improvise."
"Humans are unpredictable. That is why you are here."
Elias realized the truth of her words. Humanity had often been underestimated, not because it lacked strength, but because it was unpredictable, creative, and capable of empathy in ways no other species could fully measure. The ball continued, but Elias felt a new sense of purpose. He was no longer merely a guest. He was a participant in a subtle game of observation and response. Every interaction, every gesture, every thought could matter. He moved toward a group of aliens exchanging shapes of light. Mimicking their gestures carefully, he created a new pattern, combining human logic with alien form. The shapes hovered, then shifted in unexpected ways, forming a bridge between species. The aliens around him paused, intrigued. Elias felt a quiet thrill. Connection was possible. Understanding was possible. The Queen's attention lingered on him, a silent acknowledgement of his growing skill. "Curiosity is the seed," she said. "Action is the fruit. Let your actions grow wisely, human." Hours passed. yet time felt fluid. Elias had lost track of minutes, perhaps even hours. The music, the lights, the floating guests, they all became part of a rhythm he could follow, part of a pattern that revealed subtle truths about communication, trust, and perception. A sudden pause fell over the hall. The Queen rose, her form radiating light that drew the attention of every guest. She extended a limb toward Elias, not threatening, but commanding. "Come," she said in thought. "It is time for the next step." Elias felt a mixture of fear and excitement. He rose slowly, following her as the other guests stepped aside, forming a path. The center of the room had transformed, a circle of light expanding beneath them. The Queen gestured for him to step into the circle. The moment his feet touched the glowing floor, the projection changed. Scenes of other civilizations, alien and human alike, flickered around him. He felt as if he were standing at the center of the galaxy, seeing life in ways impossible for a single human to comprehend. "Observe, human," the Queen said softly, her thought wrapping around him like a warm breeze. "See what others cannot. Feel what they do not feel, and act when action is needed, even when you do not understand the rules." Elias's mind raced, but he focused. He observed the interactions, the patterns of energy, the subtle flows of emotion, and then he noticed a threat, an imbalance in the projection, a moment where creatures were in danger. Without hesitation, he reached out, adjusting a stream of energy with the clarity of instinct. The scene stabilized. The guests around him watched, some with curiosity, others with admiration. The Queen's presence intensified, a silent pulse of approval. "Courage," she said simply, "not of the body, but of the mind and spirit. That is what makes humans interesting." Elias felt a surge of pride, yet also humility. He had acted, but he had also learned. The Queen's test was far from over, and yet he had discovered something fundamental. Humanity's strength lay not in force or intellect alone, but in creativity, empathy, and courage. The ability to act when the unexpected arose. As the projection faded, the hall returned to its earlier rhythm. Guests continued their dances and exchanges, yet Elias now felt a quiet confidence. He had passed the first trial, not by following rules, but by embracing uncertainty and acting with insight. The Queen's gaze lingered on him, a silent promise that more would come. More tests, more challenges. And Elias, standing beside her, knew that he had not only survived this part of the evening but had begun to reveal the true value of humanity to the stars. The hall had grown brighter, the colors and lights now more intense than ever. Elias felt as if the palace itself was alive, responding to the energy of the guests and the subtle rhythms of the Queen. He had begun to understand the language of gestures, glances, and shapes of light, but nothing could prepare him for what was about to happen. A sudden shiver ran through the floor beneath him. The floating platforms trembled slightly, and some of the lighter guests wavered in the air. Elias looked around, alarmed. The other humans who had arrived as part of the cultural exchange stared in confusion and fear. Before anyone could react, a low hum filled the hall. It was not music this time. It was something deeper, vibrating through the very bones of the palace. Lights flickered, shifting from calm blues and silvers to intense reds and greens. The air grew thick, and Elias felt his chest tighten. The Queen turned her gaze to him, calm but serious. "The moment has come," she said in thought. "Observe closely, human. Act if necessary. Do not falter." Then it happened. A sudden wave of energy surged from one corner of the hall, scattering floating guests like leaves in a storm. Some forms twisted and shimmered violently, while others seemed to vanish briefly, only to reappear moments later. A ripple of panic spread among the aliens, subtle but noticeable. Elias's instincts took over. He remembered the lessons of the earlier trials, the importance of observation, empathy, and quick response. Moving swiftly, he stepped toward the nearest disturbance. He saw a small group of alien guests struggling to stabilize themselves as their forms fluctuated wildly. Without hesitation, he extended his hands and focused, guiding the energy with a mix of logic and intuition he could not fully explain. The effect was immediate. The forms began to stabilize, the shimmering slowing until the guests floated calmly once more. They glanced at him, their attention curious and cautious. Elias felt a small surge of relief. One crisis had been managed, but he knew this was only the beginning. The Queen's presence intensified. Good, she thought. You act not out of fear, but with understanding. That is what sets your kind apart. Continue. A larger wave hit next, this time originating from the central platform. The air around it twisted, and a strange form materialized, neither solid nor fully energy, a presence that radiated intelligence and intent. It moved toward the guests, and Elias felt the instinctive fear that no human could deny. Yet, he remembered the Queen's words, "Act not from fear, but from understanding." He approached the form, observing its movements carefully. Its shape shifted constantly, yet there was a pattern, a logic that he could perceive if he paid attention. Slowly, he mirrored its motions with his own, not confronting it aggressively, but matching its rhythm. The form paused, then adjusted, responding to his movements. A faint connection seemed to spark between them, and Elias felt the tension ease slightly. Around him, the alien guests watched, some with admiration, others with confusion. Elias realized that humans were unpredictable in ways the aliens did not anticipate. Where the aliens relied on precision and instinct, humans could improvise, act creatively under pressure, and respond to the unexpected with intuition rather than rigid protocol. The Queen's thought brushed against his mind, warm and approving. Courage is not the absence of fear, human. It is the mastery of it. And your kind has it, in ways the galaxy seldom sees. Elias focused again on the energy waves and the shifting forms. He directed his attention to the central disturbance, adjusting flows of energy subtly, nudging the unpredictable form into balance. Slowly, methodically, he stabilized the chaos. The hall's lights returned to their previous serene shimmer. The music resumed, and the floating guests steadied once more. A hush fell over the room. The aliens glanced at one another, as if witnessing something rare, something remarkable. Elias felt the Queen's attention settle on him fully, intense yet not intimidating. She did not speak aloud. Instead, a thought passed into his mind. You have shown what many thought impossible.
Don't.
You have acted where calculation alone would fail. You have revealed human potential. Despite the calm returning, Elias's heart raced. He had faced danger without full understanding, relying on instinct, empathy, and creativity. It was exhausting, yet exhilarating. He realized that humans had something unique, an ability to adapt in real time, to respond to the unpredictable, and to act with courage, even when the rules were unclear. The Queen shifted slightly, her presence calming yet commanding. There is more, she said. Observe the final challenge, human. It will test all you have learned tonight. From the edges of the hall, new projections emerged. This time they depicted a complex scenario, alien communities across distant worlds threatened by an unknown force. The projections were not just visual, they resonated with emotion and urgency. Elias could feel the fear, confusion, and desperation of the beings within the images. Unlike the earlier tests, this was not isolated to one location. The disturbances were interconnected, requiring coordination and strategy. Elias realized the challenge was to find solutions that integrated knowledge, empathy, and ingenuity. He could not physically intervene. These were images, but he could influence them through understanding, suggestion, and creative problem-solving. Slowly, he traced patterns, observing the flow of energy and communication among the alien communities. He imagined new ways they could act, combining methods that were not apparent in the original projections. The scenarios shifted subtly in response to his thoughts, stabilizing regions that had been in chaos, finding harmony where conflict had seemed inevitable. The alien guests murmured among themselves, projecting symbols of approval and curiosity. Elias felt a surge of confidence. He was beginning to understand the true purpose of the Queen's test. It was not about power or intelligence alone, but about perception, creativity, and empathy in the face of unpredictability. Finally, the central projection stabilized completely. The images of alien communities stood together, resilient and harmonious. A quiet wave of approval passed through the hall, almost imperceptible, yet Elias felt it. The Queen's presence enveloped him. You have acted with clarity, courage, and empathy, human. You have seen the unexpected and responded without fear. That is why you sit beside me tonight. Elias felt a mix of relief and awe. He had navigated a challenge no human had ever faced, yet he understood that the true test was only beginning. He had demonstrated that humans could act when others faltered, that unpredictability and empathy were strengths, not weaknesses. The guests returned to their previous dances and exchanges, but Elias felt a new respect radiating from them. Even beings far more advanced than humans had witnessed qualities they did not fully understand, qualities that could not be calculated or predicted. The Queen leaned slightly closer, her presence calm but intense. Humanity has potential the galaxy has underestimated, she said. Not in weapons, not in technology, but in creativity, courage, and empathy. You have begun to reveal what your kind can offer. Elias felt a swell of pride, tempered by humility. He had acted, yes, but he had also learned. The Queen's trials were not merely tests. They were lessons, demonstrations of the strengths humans could bring to the wider galaxy. A soft hum filled the hall once more, signaling the end of the current challenge. The energy waves dissipated, and the projections faded into calm light. The other humans in attendance looked at Elias with awe, having witnessed his actions. He felt the weight of responsibility settling on him again. Humanity was being watched, studied, and evaluated in ways that could influence the future of interstellar relations. The Queen's gaze lingered on him. Tonight is not over, human. There are still lessons to learn, still mysteries to uncover. But you have passed the first trials. You have shown what your kind can do when faced with the unexpected. Elias nodded, his mind racing. He had survived danger, understood alien patterns, and acted with intuition, creativity, and empathy. He had discovered the power of human unpredictability, the ability to connect across vast differences, and the courage to act when others might hesitate. As the ball resumed its rhythm, Elias felt a quiet confidence. The challenges had tested him, yes, but they had also revealed the potential of humanity in a way that no words or diplomacy could. He knew the night was far from over, but he was ready. Whatever the Queen's next test might be, he understood that observation, empathy, and creativity were as important as any knowledge or skill he possessed. He glanced at the Queen, who smiled faintly. Her thought brushed against his mind, almost a whisper. You are more than you know, human. The night has only begun. Elias took a deep breath, steadying himself. The unexpected had come, and he had faced it. But he knew that the true test, the revelation, the final challenge, was still ahead. And beside the Queen, at the center of the alien world, he felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. For the first time, he understood what the Queen had meant. Humanity could surprise even the stars. The hall had returned to calm. The lights shimmered gently, casting a soft glow over the floating platforms, and the guests who now moved with a new grace, their forms more relaxed than before. Elias took a moment to breathe, feeling the weight of the night and the trials he had faced. Each moment had tested him, his courage, his empathy, his creativity. But he had passed, and now the atmosphere felt almost celebratory. The Queen's gaze remained on him, calm and deep. She radiated authority and wisdom, yet there was something warmer in her presence now, a recognition that transcended formalities. Elias felt it like a gentle tide washing over him, a quiet acknowledgement that he had proven humanity's worth. "You have acted as humans rarely can," she said softly in his mind. "Not all your kind would have faced what you faced tonight. You have shown creativity, courage, and compassion. These are the gifts that will allow your species to shine in the galaxy." Elias swallowed, humbled by her words. He had acted instinctively, guided by a mixture of observation and human intuition, yet the Queen's acknowledgement made him realize the true weight of his actions. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, not because it lacked strength, but because its greatest qualities were unpredictable and hard to measure. As he looked around, he saw the other guests observing him differently. The alien attendees who had once regarded humans with curiosity now showed signs of respect. Some hovered closer, sharing shapes of light and subtle symbols of recognition. Others mirrored his gestures in their own way, a quiet celebration of the bridge that had been built between species. The Queen extended a delicate limb toward him, a gesture that was at once formal and intimate. "Come," she conveyed. "There is one final moment I wish to share with you, human." Elias followed her, stepping onto a central platform that glowed softly beneath his feet. The hall seemed to respond to their movement, light bending and refracting in ways that highlighted the unity of all present. Other guests parted slightly, giving space, their forms glowing with admiration and curiosity. The Queen paused and turned to face him fully. Her form shimmered, silver and blue shifting in waves, a display of her presence and authority. "You have passed the trials of observation, improvisation, and courage. You have acted when others might hesitate, and you have connected when many would have failed." She paused, and Elias felt her words sink deep into his mind. "Now you will see why your kind is unique." Before him, the hall transformed once more, not through projections or light, but through movement and presence. Alien guests began to create a pattern, a living tapestry of light and form that stretched across the room. Elias felt it not just with his eyes, but in his mind and chest, their combined focus creating a shared resonance that was almost tangible. "You see, human," the Queen continued, her thought weaving through his consciousness, "many species achieve harmony through strength, precision, or intellect. But humans, your kind surprises the universe, because you act with heart as well as mind. You imagine solutions where none seem possible. You respond with courage when rules fail. And you connect in ways others cannot predict." Elias watched as the tapestry of light shifted and changed. It was as though the entire hall, all the guests, and even the palace itself were celebrating humanity. The colors danced in intricate patterns, shapes forming bridges between human gestures and alien forms. Elias felt a quiet awe, realizing that this was not a spectacle. It was recognition, a celebration of what humans could bring to the galaxy. He felt the Queen's presence closer now, more intimate, as if she were guiding him to understand fully. "Tonight, you have not only survived my trials, human, you have illuminated the potential of your species. Others may measure humans by technology or power, but the true value lies in your unpredictability, your empathy, and your imagination." Elias's mind raced. The night had tested him beyond anything he had expected, yet here he was, standing beside the Queen, not as a mere guest, but as a representative of humanity's true potential. He felt a deep sense of pride and responsibility settle on him. Humanity had been given an opportunity, not just to survive in the galaxy, but to earn respect, curiosity, and even admiration. The other humans in attendance, who had been observers until now, looked at him with wide eyes. They had witnessed what he had done, how he had acted with courage and insight when faced with the unexpected. Elias felt a quiet smile. The night had changed them too, They now understood that humanity's strength lay not just in knowledge or skill, but in heart and spirit. The Queen gestured subtly, and a soft melodic sound filled the hall. It was a resonance that humans could feel in their chests rather than hear with ears, a vibration of approval, of celebration. Elias felt it ripple through him, connecting him to every being in the room. He realized that this was more than recognition. It was a shared experience, a moment that transcended species and language. "You see, human," the Queen continued, "the galaxy underestimates your kind. They see your weapons, your tools, your technology, and judge your potential by those measures alone. But tonight, I have seen what your species can truly offer." She paused, and for the first time, Elias noticed a faint smile in her shimmering form. Empathy, courage, and imagination. These are the qualities that allow humans to face the unexpected, to create, to inspire. They are rare, even among the stars. Elias felt a quiet warmth spread through him. He had faced fear, chaos, and uncertainty, and had acted with his heart as well as his mind. The Queen's words confirmed what he had sensed all along. Humanity's strength was unique, not measured in power or technology, but in qualities that could surprise even the most advanced civilizations. The hall began to slow its rhythm, the lights softening, the floating platforms returning to gentle rotation. The alien guests shared quiet gestures, exchanging symbols of respect and recognition. Elias looked around, seeing wonder in their eyes, curiosity in their movements. Humans had been underestimated, and now, for the first time, the universe seemed to notice. The Queen turned to him fully, her presence enveloping him like a calm tide. "Tonight, human, you have not only proven yourself, but your species. You have shown courage, empathy, and the ability to act when others would hesitate. Remember this night. Remember what you are capable of, and carry it forward. Humanity is now seen in ways you may not yet fully understand." Elias felt a profound sense of purpose. He had been tested, challenged, and observed. Yet he had emerged not just intact, but recognized. The Queen had revealed humanity's potential in the galaxy, and he felt the weight and honor of that responsibility settle on him. As the final moments of the ball unfolded, Elias noticed a subtle gesture from the Queen. She extended her limbs slightly, a motion that carried both formality and warmth. It was a gesture of acceptance, recognition, and perhaps even friendship. Elias mirrored the gesture, feeling a bridge form between human and alien, between what was expected and what was extraordinary. Around them, the hall shimmered with light, the alien guests now moving in quiet celebration, their forms reflecting admiration and curiosity. Elias felt a thrill unlike anything he had experienced. The night had been a test, a challenge, and a revelation all at once. Humanity had been underestimated, and now, in this moment, it was seen. The Queen's voice, soft yet commanding in his mind, lingered. "Go forth, human. Carry what you have learned. Share what you have discovered. And know this, the galaxy will watch your kind, and you will continue to surprise it." Elias nodded, feeling a sense of quiet triumph. He had faced the unexpected, acted with courage, and revealed the strengths of humanity. The Queen had seen him, but more importantly, she had seen the potential of all humans. As the night drew to a close, Elias stepped back, taking one last look at the palace, the floating guests, and the Queen who had guided him through the trials. He felt a deep sense of connection, understanding, and pride. Humanity had been shown as more than capable, more than curious. They were extraordinary in ways even the stars could not have predicted. He knew that this night would stay with him forever. The ball, the trials, the Queen, and the alien guests had revealed a truth he could not ignore. Humanity was capable of greatness, not measured by tools or strength, but by heart, courage, and imagination. And with that understanding, Elias left the central platform, carrying the light of this extraordinary night with him. As he exited the hall, he glanced back at the Queen one final time. Her gaze was calm yet filled with a quiet pride, as if acknowledging that the night had changed both human and alien alike. Elias understood then that this was only the beginning. Humanity had been recognized, celebrated, and given a place among the stars, not through conquest or technology, but through the qualities that made them truly remarkable. And in that moment, Elias smiled. Humanity had begun its journey into the galaxy, not as a species to be underestimated, but as one to be respected, admired, and most importantly, understood.